Thanks, Jeremy. And thanks to the Prescribed Fire Council for having me back up again. I was up here in probably 2018, maybe. So it's great to see a lot of familiar faces. And they must have put the Southerners together because Wes and I are both from South Carolina and both graduates of Clemson University Forestry. So anyway, so I hear some whisperings and some rumors that you guys might be interested in pulling off a TREX here in Pennsylvania. And so folks were interested in hearing about the TREX that we put on in the Southern Blue Ridge in 2018 and tried to put on in 2020 and 21, but we'll be able to pull off this fall in 23 finally, thanks to COVID. So I'm going to hit on the TREX program. TREX stands for Training Exchange. So I'm going to hit on the TREX program, what that is nationally, how that looks nationally, and then I'm going to hit on the Southern Blue Ridge and how we carried out the Southern Blue Ridge TREX and the partners at the table and the goals we had and were able to carry out through the TREX program. So TREX was created in 2018 and really was created by the U.S. Forest Service, or it was pushed by the U.S. Forest Service and the Department of Interior. And their motivation to walk down this road of training exchanges, or how do we effectively train folks in the prescribed fire setting, is that we had this bottleneck in training. And not only did we have this bottleneck in training in 2008, that bottleneck in training, is, as we all know, is even larger now with COVID. You know, the time that we weren't able to get together and do effective training face-to-face. And so now this is still just as pertinent today with that bottleneck training as it was in 2008, maybe even more so. Okay. So in 2008, this kind of concern and directive came out of the U.S. Forest Service and the Department of Interior. And the Nature Conservancy put together this great program called the TREX program. So this provides some hands-on training. Its goal is to ease these bottlenecks in prescribed fire workforce. And then it also promotes this interagency coordination of resources and of burn windows. So what do these look like? These TREX events are 2-week trainings, 14 days. And these events, really the beauty of these events is that they can be tailored to fit your needs wherever you are in the country. What are your challenges? What do you have challenges with in terms of partners, in terms of burn windows, et cetera? So you can really tailor these to meet the needs, like I said. So local ecosystems, we look at land management practices. There are crew members who come from all over the world, and then equipment. So these crews implement prescribed fires for really an average of 5 to 10 days in that 14-day period. So our goal is to, or the goal through the TREX program is to get as much on the ground burning training as possible in that 14 days. So if you've got a great window, you know, we would be out burning, or you would be out burning with the TREX program every single day if possible. You know, attendees come with their task books, their open task books. We match folks who have training needs with open task books with folks on the ground at the TREX who are able to provide good training opportunities, solid training opportunities through these prescribed fires. Also, a lot of presentations and field tours on fire ecology and fire management. So not only are you going to these places to learn and to get ink in your task book per se, but you're learning about the ecosystems, how we use fire in different parts of the country. So participants range in size from 10 to 100. They treated as few as 37 acres up to 6,200 acres. Skill levels, the full gamut. Someone who's an FFT2, just finished, you know, just red card certified and never been on a fire, to folks working on Burn Boss. So this is funded through the PERFACT, which is promoting ecosystem resilience and fire adapted communities together. So this little illustration here, you know, is what we're trying to do. Where we're moving in this country, in this world, is living with fire, right? So we can't escape it anymore. We've got to live with it. So there are several elements there. We've got fire adapted communities. We've got restoring resilient ecosystems and landscapes, social and operational capacity for the right fire at the right time in the right places. And then we've got these other inputs like science and learning and cultural knowledge. Some of our TREXs are purely cultural for Native Americans to get fire back onto their native lands in the hands of their native people. So that's how it meets needs in some of these places. So this is what, there's a lot on this slide, I know. So this is what it looks like. Can you guys see that okay? Okay, so this is what it looks like at the national level, the TREX program over the years. So this chronicles 2018 through 2021, and they don't have the 22 data quite ready yet. So as you can see, those top bar graphs are the number of participants over the years. And so the largest number of participants in 21, 644, but actually, the TNC office told me last week that 2022 had just over 1,000 participants nationwide. So it's continuing to grow and continuing to grow at a fast pace. Diversity is a really big part of the TREX program. And so you can see that pie chart as time has moved, things have gotten a lot more diverse. So that's broken up into international and private, tribal members, volunteer fire departments, all kinds of folks coming to the table to get prescribed fire training. The number of events nationwide, that took a hit because of COVID. But as you can see, back up to 11 and 21, and I'm not sure what 22 was, but I'm guessing with 1,000 participants, probably a few more events last year. The map you see there of the US is locations that TREXs have happened over time in the country. So you can see really these TREXs started in the middle part of the country. And the model in some of these TREXs in the middle part of the country were that they kind of roved all over the place. So our TREX in the Southern Blue Ridge, we have a camp and we have a home base, and a lot of them do. But the ones in the Midwest, have better success when they're able to move from location to location. So they might spend a night in one town and drive 2 hours and do a burn in another town or even another state the next day. And it's continually roving around. So you can see the Midwest there. You can see then it reached out to the west. That one in Northern California is with the Karuk tribe. I've been able to attend that one, which is really, really cool, burning on private lands, integrated right into the tribe there and the native people. The first one on the East Coast was the Southern Blue Ridge Trex, the one we hosted in the mountains of South Carolina in 2018. But since then there's been, I know several people here said they attended the one in Maine that just occurred. There's one next month on the coast of North Carolina. I think it's the Women's TREX, which is not limited to just women, but it focuses on women's challenges and women's successes through fire. So it's a well-established program with a lot of benefits, and this is a neat glimpse into what it's looked like over the years. So the TREX program is working through barriers to burning. So like I said, that diverse body of participants, the ecological, cultural pieces, tactical components and training. There's a real can-do attitude around a TREX. When we open applications for the TREX and you apply to our TREX, we ask you, what equipment can you bring for the greater good of the event? A great example of that is Pennsylvania brought an engine and engine crew in 2018, and it's great. And so not only that can-do attitude with equipment and planning, but also that can-do attitude that rain happens, right? In the first Southern Blue Ridge, we had more rain days than we did burn days. But everyone put their heads together, and the South Carolina Forestry Commission said, hey, we've got a sim table. We can do a session today with the sim table. And the Pennsylvania engine said, oh, we've got this great, activity and training opportunity we can do right here in the rain. And so everyone just kind of jumps in and makes it work. And especially when We're all disappointed that we can't carry a torch and we've got, rain in the forecast. The 2015 NorCal TREX was issued permits during California statewide burn bans. So that can-do attitude also leads to overcoming some boundaries in terms of fire, but also that leads, what that shows is that there's a lot of trust in the TREX program, and it's beginning to gain kind of this traction and being a trusted, well-run quality event. And then, so it overcomes also barriers to implementing prescribed fire, and those can be managed. All right, so either it's super sensitive or it won't. There we go. So the TREX program, the TREX event, utilizes a Type 3 incident command team. So just as if you rolled up to a fire out west, there's an incident commander, operations plans, all of those pieces that you see with a team. And it makes it run really smooth. It's a system that's familiar to all of us who work in fire. It does a great job of providing local capacity for safer fire. So we're providing that basic firefighter training, but we're integrating local forestry folks, local volunteer fire departments, local nonprofits, private citizens. We have private camps who put their burn units with the Southern Blue Ridge. And then we're increasing in areas available fire management capacity. So in South Carolina, when Tom Dooley at the time was South Carolina's fire manager, he came to me and he said, "Hey, Helen, will you help me co-host the Southern Blue Ridge TREX?" And I said, "Sure, let's do it. Let's do it in the mountains of South Carolina." And he said, "Great, we'll do it in the spring." And I said, "No, there's no way we'll do it in the spring. In a minute, I'll show you our partners in the mountains of South Carolina and over the line in North Carolina. We're all burning our own lands. And I know Forest Service sure isn't pulling off their burns for the greater the good in our, in the season where we're getting everything done. Where we have challenges in the mountains of South Carolina is during the fall. Every year we say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna burn more this fall. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it." Well, and then what happens? Our seasonal crews aren't there. Our window is tight and it's narrow. We're switching from being out west on wildfires to being back home. So I said, I'll do it, but what we've got to do is we've got to do it in the fall. What it's going to do if we do it in the fall is going to increase capacity, and everyone's going to come together and have this motivation to burn together. And I'll talk more about the specifics of that in a minute when I get to the Southern Blue Ridge piece. But it really has that ability to open windows, and just that capacity can really be impacted in a big way. TREX has helped communities become more fire adapted. We're burning in and around fire-prone communities. We're making communities safer. The Klamath TREX in Northern California is based out of Happy Camp. And if you've done Western fire, you probably know Happy Camp. Lots of wildfire there. So we're putting these TREXs in the footprint of some pretty major wildfires. In South Carolina, in the mountains of South Carolina, our TREX is at the base of the largest wildfire in South Carolina history that happened in 2016. So we're spending a lot of time educating the public on safe and effective fire management, what prescribed fire looks like, and it's okay to see prescribed fire in your back door right after a wildfire. We're integrating these ecological and cultural and social contexts, and I've already talked, a lot about this. We're out there monitoring fire behavior and effects piece, a wide range of landscapes, yeah, so most of these same things I've already mentioned, but we're integrating so many different things into these events. Interagency cooperation is a huge piece of it. That's what makes the Southern Blue Ridge successful. Type 3 IMT, we're managing liabilities and working together on each other's land. So our real goal in the Southern Blue Ridge was to erase those jurisdictional lines and for everyone to show up in the yellow and green with a torch and burn all together. And that's what we've been successful at. And so since that TREX, we've also been successful at continuing to do that more commonly in the spring season, when I said we'll never pull off each other's burns. But if we're now so connected across these interagencies, this interagency participation in the TREX, that we're beginning to do that a little more even in the spring season. We're working under the umbrella of TNC. So they've got the MOU and the cooperative agreements and those pieces in place. And those pieces we don't have to really worry about, because TREX is that structure for us. Federal, state, private fire teams, you know, we can depend on each other for the prescribed fire under that umbrella of TNC. A big piece is positive media outreach and training. So we in the Southern Blue Ridge and most other TREXs around the country have a PIO team attached to training positions in PIO while you're there at the TREX, delivering key components, talking about the benefits of prescribed fire, media, bringing media in the Southern Blue Ridge. We had a full gamut of media, from newspaper to NPR, to on the radio, to TV, as well as we hosted a congressional day where representatives came and learned about fire right in their backyard. And really our goal is to help reporters understand and to share the message of good fire, right? That we get plenty of messages about the so-called destructiveness of fire. So we're really, really pointed in sharing that good message of fire. All right, so I'm going to shift gears a little bit and tell you guys the nuts and bolts of the Southern Blue Ridge TREX. And I've already kind of alluded to kind of how we've approached some of these things, but if you can see, let me see if this, where's my laser, do you know? Oh, there we go. Okay, so in one way, another way that the Southern Blue Ridge is organized is that we've got a really, really strong fire learning network in the Southern Blue Ridge. And within that fire learning network, we have 8 landscapes. So I have the privilege to help co-lead with Kristen Austin at TNC, the Blue Ridge Escarpment landscape. And our landscape is outlined in the black dots. So there's the state line is the one through the middle, but this line that goes all the way around is the Blue Ridge Escarpment. And so we knew we wanted to put our TREX in. So I live just down the road, you know, and so I wanted to make sure that it was in my back door with the partners that I work with on a very regular basis. So we chose the Wesleyan camp. And then what we did is we kind of were a little overwhelmed about burn units, right? So we need burn units over multiple agencies, private lands. Holy cow, how do we collect all of that is kind of where we were. So we started with this, and there is a dot on the map right here. It's a little hard to see. So we put that dot on the map for the Wesleyan camp where we wanted to host it, and we threw these lines on the map. The purple is a 30-minute drive, the blue is an hour drive, and the red is an hour-and-a-half drive. And so we decided, all right, if we have to come back to the Wesleyan camp every night for our meals, to sleep, for lodging, then we don't want to be driving all day. We want to have a good operational period for prescribed burning. So this was kind of a starting point for us. This is where we worked from. It's where we continue to work from in planning the next event that we've got later this year. So we went into the 2018 TREX with a little over 40 burn units across completely all jurisdictions and into North Carolina. This is where we hosted it, Table Rock Retreat and Conference Center. So this rock outcrop right here is the site of the Pinnacle Mountain Fire in 2016 when we were all crazy in the Southern Blue Ridge with all the Appalachian fires. It was started by a campfire that got out, and 2 local communities were evacuated twice. No loss of home, no loss of life, but it impacted this community, this really tight-knit community in the mountains of South Carolina pretty heavily. So Table Rock Retreat and Conference Center was the incident command post for that wildfire. They knew how to feed wildland firefighters. They knew that we were going to come with engines and all kinds of equipment. So we were very confident and very comfortable in putting the event here, and it was just a good, easy place for us. This is just, so that rock outcrop I pointed to, this is this is it in 2016. So, you know, we had concerns over bringing prescribed fire. So we do a lot of prescribed fire in the mountains of South Carolina, but we had a lot of concern over bringing 2 weeks of it intensively in the fall when 2 years prior they were evacuated because of it. But so we spent a lot of time in the local community educating, you know, notifying, and really we had no pushback, and we had folks asking, how do we get you to burn our land when you do the next one, which to us was felt like a real success. So this is where our burn units were spread across that landscape, that Blue Ridge Escarpment landscape that I showed you earlier. And so you see the little flames here all the way across, kind of in this red circle. But what I really want to point out is all of the land ownership in the mountains of South Carolina over the line into North Carolina, because we've got a large piece of national forest here. This is Georgia, so we've even got the Chattahoochee. We didn't have any burn units in Georgia, but probably will for 2023. Then we move up into Duke Energy. These are man-made lakes for hydroelectric power. So a lot of recreation in the mountains of South Carolina. We've got state parks all along here, along the state line. Jocassee Gorges is DNR land that is managed with fire. It's National Geographic's, one of National Geographic's 100 places on the planet that you must visit before you die. Unfortunately, National Geographic put it on their 100 list, and you know, as you can imagine, visitorship is way up. But it's managed for its very diverse landscape, managed through DNR, and fire's a big piece of what they do. All right, what else do we have here? We've got all of our state parks. So when we hop into North Carolina, we've got Gorges State Park. A big piece of our TREX was trying to get more fire on our South Carolina state parks. We had burned in the Midlands on state parks, but not in the mountains. A lot of challenges. They don't have their own fire crew. They were really depending on the TREX event and partners like Adam Warwick's crew that Wesley just spoke about to come help them burn on state parks. Well, North Carolina is a different story with their state parks. They have an entire burn crew, a burn organization where they burn state parks in North Carolina. So they're light years ahead of South Carolina. But how do we bring along South Carolina with the example of North Carolina with their state parks through the TREX? Headwaters, and then we've got DuPont State Park, or DuPont State Forest. That's North Carolina Forest Service, operated and managed over 1 million visitors a year right there. And they burn as mountain bikers come by. That's their model. It's right outside of Asheville. A lot of great success at interface with the public there. And then Green River Gamelands, all the way up there at the top, is North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission. So as you all can see, there are a lot of partners here, and then there's all the private land that's mixed in there too. So this is who showed up. Lots of partners from all over the Southeast, all over the world, really, all over the country, from several different countries, Spain and Costa Rica. So everyone showed up with equipment and that can-do attitude, and we had a great event. And this is just a quick look at the organization chart, just to drive home that point that it is rolled out like an incident and operated that way. There's a daily, a daily plan and daily meetings through the overhead staff, and then in carrying out burning and training. This is what we posted everywhere on the local country store and our volunteer fire departments. We got it into meetings. And this is just a really great tool for us in terms of helping that community understand what was going on and what was coming. And that when you see smoke this time in the fall, that it's okay, it's not a wildfire, that it's prescribed fire. We were very intentional about where we put our PIOs on burn days and how we would put them near the fire. And we always had those PIO boards with a lot of information, but always had someone with that PIO board that could answer questions and just kind of ease the nerves of those who needed to be eased and just inform and educate. You know, flyers with QR codes where folks could go for more information. And other things we did while we were there, right? I said we only had 3 good days of burning. We did a chainsaw class. Our U.S. Forest Service helicopter came on contract, and we stocked the Chattooga and the Chaga rivers with the helicopter. So we were able, even though we didn't get to do an aerial burn with the helicopter like planned, we were still able to do some HECM training through that fish stocking event. And that was a success. We did fire line yoga. We did PT every day. You know, it was like camp. It was a lot of fun, and got to know people from all over the world. So what did we accomplish? So we had 12 partner agencies in North and South Carolina that came together and actually organized the event and implement it. More than 50 participants, like I said, from all over the world. 20 professionals involved as trainers, presenters, organizers. 100% of the participants that were surveyed said what they learned at our TREX, they would take back to their home units, which was really important to us. We wanted to provide a really good quality training event that folks could take away pieces back to their home units. We only were able to do 3 controlled burns, unfortunately, but we were able to construct 5.5 miles of fire line. And that 5.5 miles of fire line contributed to 10 burns that we were able to pull off in the spring season. So even though that crew is only building fire line, it's still structured so that task book work is being completed, because those folks are leading a crew and doing things needed in the task book, even though there's not a torch in a hand, even though there's not fire being put on the ground. So every single waking moment of a TREX, we're looking for ways for folks to get good, valuable task book, ink, and good training. 154 training assignments within this Type 3 incident management framework were completed on 7 different agency lands. Getting the word out, 41 social media posts, over 5,000 reactions and comments, 12 media stories that were covered by radio, news, and newspaper, 5 informational boards, and 150 flyers were distributed. So for a first-time TREX, we felt like it was successful, and we can't wait to do one this fall in 23. Here are the dates of the Southern Blue Ridge TREX in 23, October 30th through November 10th. If you want more information, sbrtrex.com is our Southern Blue Ridge TREX site. Right now, what you're going to see on it, we have not updated it for 23 yet. What you're going to see on there is some 21 information. So we just met earlier this week, getting reorganized, getting things going for this year. Would love to see some more Pennsylvania folks there this time. And so, yeah, so we've got this video. I'm going to show it, and then I'll take a few questions, and I'll be around at the end of the meeting today for more questions. So go ahead.
TREX is essentially a training model that allows us to have a very condensed classroom to provide training to wildland firefighters in a prescribed fire setting, in a controlled burn setting. In the wildland fire world, we have certain training and certain qualifications that we all have to achieve in order to become more responsible, in order to learn more about fire, and learn more about leadership. And the opportunities to train in order to achieve those qualifications are often limited. So this training exchange really provides an opportunity for people to address some of those bottlenecks at the level that you're managing people and you're managing people doing work. We're trying to address those bottlenecks with this prescribed fire training exchange in the Southern Blue Ridge, and using this model across the country to address it nationwide as well.
TREX trainings are really unique in that they are run like a wildland fire incident. We all gather here from all over the world, really, for 14 days, and everything we do in unison. So the ability to see different parts of the country, to see and meet people from all over the world and hear about how they burn versus how we may burn here. The ability to learn on the fly, on the ground, while putting fire on the ground is a fabulous thing, and that's where the learning really happens, is out here in the woods with the driftwood camps.
We have people from all over the United States representing various states and state agencies and federal agencies, as well as private organizations. We have participants from Spain. We have participants from Costa Rica as well that have joined us here just for this 2 weeks. Had an opportunity to gather some good training, to network, and to understand and appreciate the ecology of the local area.
All of the participants in the TREX are officially certified wildland firefighters. They all fight fire in different capacities, maybe at state levels, maybe at federal levels, and all have varying degrees of experience. But for them to come here and work together and put fire down on the ground in a controlled way is very beneficial to their training. It helps them get the training they need to further their wildland fire career, as well as the training they need to put more prescribed fire on the ground in their part of the country.
This training exchange allows us the opportunity to try and increase the fire footprint in the landscape, but also to build local capacity among the state agencies and the federal agencies, both in North Carolina and South Carolina, as well as regionally.
I wanted to bring the TREX here to Southern Blue Ridge. Number one, I grew up 20 minutes down the road. I had the great privilege of managing the lands that I grew up around with fire for the benefit of the land. I also wanted to bring people here to Southern Blue Ridge to see and experience the type of fire we use and how we put it on the ground, and the partnerships and successes we have here. And also I wanted to be able to share with the participants here the science behind it all. We don't just walk out there and put fire on the ground. There are reasons, and those reasons are tied to animals and vegetation and fuels, and to be able to integrate that into their learning experience is key. And understanding fire, how to put it on the ground, where to put it on the ground, and put it on the ground.
We understood that fire played a critical role in getting the natural vegetation back to where it should be. And so we talked with the state parks to encourage more fire in the state parks. And so we started burning. Actually, last year we burned out several state parks, and Table Rock has a couple units or tracks on it that we want to burn. And so that brought in all the partners and cooperators that we've been working with to bring in the TREX, which is a training effort that brings in people that are interested in learning more about prescribed fire and how to run it as within the incident management system.
I've always said that everything I know about fire, I've learned on fire, and TREX really embodies that. The essence of TREX is to get out there and actually use fire on the ground during the experience.
None of us can do this alone. The need for fire is much greater than what one agency or one organization can shoulder by themselves. And it takes building partnerships, it takes having relationships and deep relationships with these agencies. And this training exchange, it's not only about the training and qualification, it's about strengthening those relationships. When we succeed, we all succeed together. And this is our effort and partnership with various agencies and organizations to work together, to partner together, to put this TREX on and to have it succeed.
All right. All right, questions? Anybody got any questions? Okay.
Looks like there's no negative. There's nothing in the chat question wise, Helen.
Yeah, I just see that there's a comment from Wesquito in just how important it's been for, it's fostered a lot of cohesion that he mentioned earlier. So Wes and I worked together on a lot of things, and a lot of that came from the TREX. So, yeah, it's led to truly, you know, we talked so many years about burning together, but it never happened until the TREX. And now we're much more apt to reach out to each other for sure. All right, if I can get this to change my contact information. Okay. And I've also put the Consortium of Appalachian Fire Managers and Resources up here. I run AppalachianFire.org. Anytime I can help you through the science piece behind fire and those pieces, and then my consortium email, and then my Forest Service email. So if I can help, I would love to answer questions. I would love to see one in Pennsylvania and would love to help make that happen if you all, think you want to go in that direction. But the benefits we still feel today and will continue to feel for a long time. So thanks.